Do you constantly beat yourself up? Welcome to the club. Today's episode, we are talking about self-compassion. Is it important? And if it is, how on earth do we do it? This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's
That's
Danny.
our
What's going on,
host.
Danny?
What's up? You know, it's funny because it's one of those things where like no matter how much you know and I don't know if it's like a Western thing or whatever, but no matter how much you know that it's bad for you, no matter how much you know that like self-compassion is good, you still beat yourself up. Like it's so hard to get rid of those tendencies,
Hmm.
to be like, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, this isn't gonna work out, I'm doing meh, 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 meh,
Yep.
and you just make it, and it doesn't help anything. Like it
Hmm.
doesn't make things better. It doesn't make you more motivated. It doesn't make you get things done faster. It stresses you out and makes you worse at all that stuff.
Yeah. One of the things I was doing this week is like whenever I'm struggling, I just break out the Feeling Great app and like work through the problem using that app. It's an
Nice.
excellent app. And one of the techniques they have is a double standard technique. So I'll be listing the thoughts that I have that are causing me to suffer, and then it'll ask, well, you know, if you had a friend who was identical to you, same age, same everything, whatever, and most of the time I just imagine you, but
Oh
it
yeah,
would be
because I
like,
do too. Yeah.
would you say this to them? And I'd be like, oh, I'd never say that, like not in a
Yeah.
million years. And they're like, what would you say to them instead? And I'd say to that, and I'm like, well, if they're identical to you in every way, could you just say that to yourself? And I'm like, man, I treat myself like garbage.
Yeah. But we have this tendency, and it's like, why do we think it's okay? Because it's us, but we would never. And I think there's very few people that would say they would do that. They would use the same language with somebody else that
Hmm.
you use with yourself. I can't imagine that anybody would. But like, why do we think it's okay, right, to do that to ourselves, but not to somebody else? Why is it because it's us, because it's internal and not heard out loud? Is that what's stopping us? Like, and if
Hmm.
that's the case, maybe say it out loud
I
to
think because
yourself,
this stuff, a lot of the stuff was said to us when we were young, and like,
Yeah.
and by people we had to trust, and so we took it as gospel. We took it as, well, they
Internalize
must,
it,
yeah,
yeah.
we that must be true. So there must be something wrong with me. So we just got in the habit of it because it was better to catch ourselves early than to get more of that from them.
That's true too. Yeah, I think also too, like I think a lot of it too, at least for myself too, is like expectations placed when you're young too, of like thinking like, you should be X, Y, or Z, and then, you know, reality is different than that, obviously. And so then beating yourself for not meeting these made up goals you place on yourself or that others have.
Hmm.
It's hard. And working through that stuff, I think a lot of us, I think everybody definitely suffers with that stuff,
Yeah.
whether they know it or not.
Yeah. So one of the best things that I've found was the double standard technique. When I'm beating myself
Yeah.
up, just like thinking if I had an identical twin, or what would I say to you, or a good friend or somebody like that. Because that's so helpful because, yeah, it just helps me recognize where I'm not treating myself as a good friend.
It helps you reframe it too, to see like that like you're being way too hard on yourself, right? And I think
Hmm.
that is like one of the best methods. I think
Yeah.
writing it down too, like when you are feeling that way, like I've done this, I do this sometimes, not always, but like, I'll write down like what I'm thinking and then ask myself like why. And then
Hmm.
sometimes that usually shows me that it's just illogical, that I'm just
Yeah.
being, essentially I'm just being an ass to myself because I'm frustrated or
Hmm.
stressed out or something. And, these, I always liked what Nietzsche said, we're like, any of our unexpressed drives will express themselves internally. So it's
Yeah.
like you're not finding a way to express this stuff outwardly, so you're going to turn it in on yourself and it's going to be negative, right?
Hmm.
And instead of like expressing it outwardly somehow,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And I like what you were saying there with reframing it because like finding the good in it. So like a lot of the times these bad feelings that I have or thoughts or whatever, they actually say something very good about myself, that I have like high standards or I actually want very good things for myself, but it's just causing me to suffer because they're not like it's not happening that way now. But
Yeah,
learning
yeah.
to recognize that this is ha this painful feeling or emotion or situation is actually happening because I do care about myself.
Yeah, I like that in feeling good because they talked about that, right? Where like,
Hmm.
it's like if you're berating yourself for not being good enough, it's because you have high standards, right? You want yourself to be excellent or you want to be really good at this thing. You want to succeed. And that's
Hmm.
not a bad thing. And so then finding a way to do it where you're not beating the shit out of yourself too
Yeah.
is ideal, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I've been taking a lot more time recently to like high five myself, not actually literally high five myself, but after I do, I know, right? Yeah. But after I do something that was hard for me or something that was, I don't know, or even just something like taking some time for some self-care, like going for a walk in the park or something. I take some time afterwards and I'm like, yeah, way to go.
Yeah. No, I've been trying to do that more too, which is like one, do hobbies more that I enjoy because that's it's just always a source of joy. So it's fun.
Hmm.
But like allowing yourself to do it so you don't feel like you're stressed too while you're doing it. But
Hmm.
also too, like looking back on what you've accomplished, recognizing what you've actually achieved. Because I think that's the other thing. When we beat ourselves up, we are really like I would argue probably 100% of the time that we do that, we're failing also to take into account what we have done. Because
Hmm.
that's not on the table. What we're focused on is what's not happening.
Hmm.
But we're not looking at what we did do. So I think like looking and being like, when you feel that way, being like, well, what have I done recently? And looking at what how I like, especially if it's like, what have I accomplished in this area or whatever, what I'm working on. A lot of times you'll see like a lot,
Hmm.
So it's like there's no reason to really beat yourself up. You're just not exactly where you want to be yet.
Yeah,
And
and
I think
that
that's also important.
yeah, and that's an excellent transition to small delights and gratitude. Because,
Yeah.
dude, I noticed I took like a month off of doing small delights, and I noticed my mental health take like a significant dip. And it's so crazy
Yeah.
because all you do is before you go to sleep, you just write down five good things that happened during a day. And in the
Yeah.
beginning, it's super hard because you're not used to recognizing good things, and they can just be things that weren't bad, you know?
Yeah.
But then you write them down. It's just like you get to relive those moments, which is great. And then you have this whole huge list of stuff that's
And
good
it
in your life.
could be like the grass smelled good when I mowed the lawn, or like the
Hmm.
sun felt good, whatever. It could be anything,
Yeah,
stupid, big,
butterfly flew
small.
by,
Yeah.
had a good cup of
Dude,
coffee, anything.
that is the craziest thing though. The more you do it, the more you start to realize like there's like an infinite number of good things that happen every day.
Hmm.
Because you know what it is though, because it's just and this is I think always our problem, right? It's our awareness of things, where
Hmm.
our attention is, and our attention tends to be grabbed by negative
Hmm.
BS things and distractions.
Yep.
But the more we cultivate paying attention to the right things, the more we see those things every day.
Hmm.
And the more you realize those things exist, right? Like that is not all bad. So yeah, I
Hmm.
think that's an awesome one. Like one of the most helpful things ever.
Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, I think just like too, like just being nice to someone, slowing down. It's funny, like that slow is fast, fast is slow thing. I
Hmm.
think about that all the time because whenever I'm trying to rush, like I can't tie my shoes.
I
Like
know,
no,
right?
you know what I mean? Like everything takes longer. And like that I say that to myself a lot. And like it's true for everything. When you're freaking out about yourself and you're berating yourself, like slow down.
Mm,
And like you're probably just, you need to reframe, rethink,
dude.
and take a step back.
And it's so
Yeah.
easy to get spun up to like fast. I noticed that because, dude, I was listening to stuff at like double speed, and then all of a sudden on YouTube it has triple speed. So I was listening to stuff on triple speed, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, slow down. I don't need to learn anything more. Like, and so I
Do you
just
know what's
went back to a
interesting
single
actually?
speed like life. Yeah.
Total side note, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about people who are blind and interacting with media.
Hmm.
And one of the reasons they actually argued for those higher speeds because they're
Yeah.
used to interacting only by sound, so they can absorb a movie way faster
Yeah.
naturally than we can. So like they're two speeds normal, like
Uh-huh.
almost like. And I was like, that's interesting. That's why they have, it's one of the reasons why they offer it though. It's because of that.
Ah.
Yeah, I thought that was
Dude, but
interesting.
I noticed that that was just making my life speed up so much more. So I just put it all
Well,
back
because you're
to
right,
one
right?
speed
It's
and
like
yeah.
everything becomes a rush. Everything becomes, how fast can I get it done? Rather than like, am I actually digesting this or enjoying it
Hmm.
or anything, right?
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
got I got to this point where it was more important to get it done. Like I made this list of a whole bunch of science fiction books that I wanted to read, and I was reading them and I wasn't enjoying the actual books because I just wanted to complete the list. And I was
Yeah.
like, something is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens to all of us, I think, and it sucks because it's like you ruin the things that you like by trying to rush through. And what's the rush? We have time.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So there you have it, self-compassion. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. Until next time, I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.